Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 7500 Holdcast. As always, I'm Jack Grimsey alongside Robert Lintott, and today we have a special guest. Sam Ty is joining us. He's with Bleacher Report, of course, but has the unfortunate similarity with Robert and I that he is a Villa fan. So we brought him in. He's got a lot of expertise. How's it going, Sam?
It's going well, much better thanks to the win last night, of course.
I was just kind of thinking about that this morning of just how much better your day is when Villa win. If you're a Villa fan, what you agree, Robert? Obviously.
Yeah, it was kind of incredible because I was just expecting to be pissed off yesterday, and we have our own like 7,500 Holt internal chat room, and I was just the codgerly old 80-year-old man raging at the world, and yet then suddenly a bright ray of sunshine, and Villa won, and everything is better.
Yeah, and we were talking about it. It had been 80 days, of course, since the last Villa win, which was maybe somewhat unsurprisingly another 1-0 over Liverpool. And we know we're going to talk with Sam about what the identity of this team is. He was writing about it yesterday in his match recap. So, I mean, we'll into the match yesterday, I guess, a little bit. What were your main takeaways, really, Sam, I guess?
Well, I mean, first of all, and I'll say this to anybody that listens, Joris Okore is a magnificent human being. He's been excellent since he's come in, and he was astounding last night. And the guy, like, until you can get to see him live and in the flesh, you don't really get just how powerful this guy is. He's built like a tank, and the way he thunders into challenges, and you'd think someone that's just torn his ACL and has been out for 14 months would be really, really hesitant to go into those. He's just unstoppable, and I think he makes one or two errors a game because he's a bit eager. He takes risks, but he's got that recovery pace to mop himself back up. I think before he tore his ACL last season, he got clocked at like 18 miles an hour, which is just absurd for a centre back. The guys in control of it measured it. It was 1 mile an hour slower than Walcott, and it's just amazing to see someone like that. It's very rare to get excited about a defender like that. So Okore for one. Hutton is a man reborn. Really impressed with the fact that Sissoko, although he's pretty crap on the ball, he can block a cross, and that is a really underrated trait in fullbacks. And of course, Benteke came up when it mattered the most, and that's what we've been missing for 9 weeks, I would say.
80
At
days.
least.
Yeah, I was impressed with Okore yesterday. It's been tough for me to sort of, because like you said, he'll make one or two stupid mistakes a game, and 2 matches ago against Burnley, it was a really costly mistake. And so there's that little part of my head that goes, yeah, he's making these idiotic mistakes, and then I have to remind myself that for 90% of the match, he is one of the best players on the pitch.
Yeah, and he's not going to make these mistakes forever. He's half a year younger than I am, so I think like, he's gonna figure it out. And if you're gonna make mistakes, why not go 100%? And he's going hard. And really, I think he's the center back that we expected when Lambert was bringing him in. All the interest from Chelsea when he was at Nordsjælland, he said, "I want to play." Comes to Villa, sits on the bench for a while, and I don't know. I think really every Villa fan was calling for him to get more playing time. Finally comes in, and he's been what we need, especially with the top 3 center backs out for Villa. So
It's crazy that it's taken 3 injuries to get him in, though. I mean, I think we can all agree that although it's great to see him playing, why the hell was he not in from the start? I mean, he was on the bench initially and then dropped off the squad list entirely, went away and played for Denmark, and you're like, what's going on? I can't believe that he's not in this team. Okay, the guys we had in were playing very well, but you just think, how is he 5th choice? This is astounding. And there are, even though you want to celebrate the win, there's a couple of things like that every time, even when we win, a couple of things that throw you off, things like that. And Joe Cole last night pulled his hamstring in the 5th minute. Like, we know that he has problems physically. We know that he's a bit spent. Can he really play 2 games in 3 days? Especially, and I was there last night, of course, it was so cold. Everybody there was warming up very half-heartedly, and you just worry about that sort of thing sometimes. I don't think Cole can play 2 games in 3 days at all.
Do you even think Cole could play 2 games in 2 weeks, or in the normal week-long rest?
Oh, God, I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, the opinion over here when he signed, when you're talking to people, a lot of agents will tell you that his hamstrings were shot So it wasn't a surprise to me to see him feel his hamstring in the 4th minute and then go off in the 5th minute when he'd sat down. So that kind of just plays into what we'd been told when he signed. It's a very, it's what I call a situational player. You stick him in where you can, but he's not a workhorse. He's not a 38 gamer.
And when he came in, we're saying, thank God it was free. This is fine. He can come in and provide some of that creative spark. I mean, he could come in the 60th minute 2 matches in a row, I think, as long as he's feeling all right in his warm-ups. And now he needs Diego Costa horse placenta transplant. Like, I mean,
yeah,
one up in the 8th minute also.
To be honest with Cole, I would consider it a success if he can just spend a whole year teaching Grealish the intricacies of playing, between the lines as a number 10, coming off the wing. If we can use him as a tutor for Grealish, it's 20 grand a week or whatever he's on, well spent, even if he doesn't make a single appearance on the pitch for me. So,
and then when he chips in with the goals, that's a bonus,
Yeah, precisely. So that's just a bonus. I hope he's training Grealish, and I hope that's his main role for this team.
Yeah, and I think we're perfectly fine with that too. You would say so, Robert?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he, in some ways, sort of plays the role that we saw Shea Given playing last year, in which Shea Given was sort of the tutor to Jed Steer before we sent Jed out on loan.
And also serving as assistant manager at times.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's a question that I've had that's unrelated to yesterday's match. Either of you see Shea Given coming back in as sort of the number 2?
Yeah, actually, Ches Suplex Rad tweeted us that. I was asking last night about what we thought or what people wanted us to talk about. I guess, sorry, but he was wondering if there was any speculation of a new assistant manager after Keane leaving. So exactly same question. I mean, do we need him? Do we need an assistant manager? It just seems like another guy that's going to piss off the players. And for Keane, maybe that's what it was.
Well, Lambert last night came into the press conferences, and before a question was asked, he said categorically that there was no fallout or anything like that. So contrary to all the reports, which is exactly what he's supposed to do. So he doesn't make us any the wiser. Ultimately, the last 2 assistant managers we've had have not lasted. They've either been fired or they've resigned in a fit of fury. So yeah, maybe we just don't bother with that position. Maybe it's money not well spent.
Yeah, I could see maybe if they let Given be sort of a player manager in sort of the way that Gary Monk took over with Swansea last year, except even at a lesser managerial and lesser playing role. Because he, by all accounts, at the end of last season, he brought a lot of harmony back into that clubhouse. He was a good leader. I could see him taking that role and us just sort of doing that for the rest of the season with the assistant manager.
And maybe you have a couple players like that, like Cole as well. And I don't know, we see now. I kind of want to talk about Darren Bent because a lot of people have been mentioning that he was just a destructive locker room presence, and now he's out of there. Maybe that's helping as well. But some of these older players like Shea Given who've been around and don't care about spending some time on the bench and mostly helping other players or tutoring like Joe Cole. Darren Bent obviously wanted to play now. I mean, he just needs to keep switching clubs because he scores on his debut every time.
Well, look, we saw Bent come on against Southampton, right? And he looked beyond awful. If we're being completely honest, like he didn't have a lot to his game initially, but he always had this burst and this first step, the ability to slip into a channel. You could play a ball into his path and he would reach it.
Yeah, if he actually times his run, he's in.
Yeah, but it's against Southampton. Jose Font was like at least 4 steps ahead of him every time, and you could just tell that the guy needed to play some football. So to send him on loan to Brighton and to bring Callum Robertson back as the 4th choice striker, absolutely fine with that decision. But even though Ben goes out on loan, I can't see him coming back in and making an impact. And the difference between him and Given is that Ben has not accepted that, but Given absolutely has. Because Given refuses to tear up his contract because it's so lucrative, and he's still got another year after this one. So he's just going to, if you've been promised that amount of money, you just take it and you just make do with it. But Ben, I don't think, is quite at that stage yet. He feels like he should be playing in this team and starting.
Which is absurd to me because he shouldn't be starting. I mean, he should barely be starting.
But when you're a former England international who scored so many goals, and I mean, when Bent came to Villa, there was a chance that he could have been England's #1 guy for maybe 3 years if he continued the form that. I mean, maybe Villa needed to keep Young and Downing to keep getting him the ball, but he looked like he was getting into good form, and honestly helped save the club from relegation.
Yeah, but that may be, last year.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Now it's hard for him to accept that since he was such a good player in the past.
He comprehensively.
We sold
failed the
Downing
last
and Young. We sold Downing and Young, and that pretty much ended his reign of terror up front because we all know he's quite limited. He needs the ball on a plate,
He's
and
a really
none of our
luxury asset to have. You
yeah.
can't have him if you're pinching the pennies. And
You can't have him if your midfield isn't good enough to support him. And if we're being completely honest, not even Delph at this moment, pre-injury obviously, was quite good enough to put it exactly where Bent needed it to be. We needed players of the caliber of Young and Downing when they were with us, of course, to put it on a plate for him and do all of the work because Villa can't get up the pitch without Benteke, without him shielding the ball and letting everybody run up 20 yards while he fights off every defender within reach. That doesn't happen. So Bent is never going to succeed because Westwood and they're just a bit too limited. They're not quite good enough to play it for him.
I'm intrigued by the fact that you said you were totally okay with recalling Robinson as the fourth choice striker. Well, meanwhile, I've been raging into the wind about that for the past week and saying it was the stupidest thing we've done in a while.
you and Ollie Dawes.
Yeah,
Poor Ollie Dawes.
I mean, it just because to me the issue has been, Bent is going to be bad for the team. Robinson is a little bit better, but not so much better to justify. I don't think at least. Pulling Robinson out of a place where he was succeeding and developing so well.
You know why I think the Robinson move is okay? Because you get December, you get January, it's a fixture build-up. What if someone gets hurt and Robinson's then the third choice striker in a system that deploys two? Honestly, with Vyman and Gabby out there, like they play, that they're honestly strikers, and I mean whatever. I think there's a chance that Robinson could be used in the next couple weeks.
And the fact that Gabby hasn't played well.
Is dead forever, I guess.
Yeah. I guess my issue is I don't think Robinson adds, at this point in his career, significantly more than Bent would.
No, but I think Sam's right. I think he's going to end up going to a little higher of a competition level on his next loan deal.
I could see that.
He might do, yeah. I mean, he was doing well for Preston, and Preston, they've got a serious injury crisis in the strikers, so that's why Ollie, bless him, was so upset about this whole thing. But I mean, look, I don't know. Robinson can learn from Benteke, and he can learn from our players. And I don't think Gabby's playing very well. I'd have brought him off at half time last night. His touch is atrocious at the moment. So, you know what? I mean, look. If you want to look at your options, if you want to bring Robinson in and see if he's got any better over the last month or so, see what he's learnt at Preston, can he offer something new? Has he spiked in his growth? By all means, assess him because we weren't scoring any goals. It's okay to look at other options.
Yeah, I suppose that's been the thing that in this argument I've never been articulating well is that I actually think Robinson can be better. I think he is at this point a better choice, at least worth seeing, than Gabby and maybe Andy.
And definitely better than Bent.
Yeah, and so he's a better choice. I guess my big worry has been I'm not convinced that Paul Lambert will actually do the right thing. Because like you saw yesterday, we didn't even have him on the...
Yeah.
And so I guess that's my problem. Because, yeah, if he has a chance at playing time, if he has a chance at actually seeing the pitch, God, yes, bring him back up. I'd rather see him getting Premier League experience than League One experience. But I just don't think he's going to see that time.
You just like to see a guy at that age get 90 minutes at least once a week, Yeah, especially.
Exactly.
Well, the thing is, last night it wasn't on the bench, of course, yeah, but we had three strikers on the pitch last night. So if Benteke gets injured, Gabby goes up front. If Gabby somehow gets injured as well, if we're unlucky enough, then Vyman goes up front. You don't need to start using those subs, but Vyman is now suspended for Leicester. So if you don't see Callum Robinson on the bench against Leicester, then there's something completely wrong. But with him suspended and bent out, Robinson becomes the third choice striker and will probably play the two on the pitch. So he's the first one off the bench. Maybe that's I don't know. I'm not going to say that Lambert definitely saw Vyman's 4 yellow cards, thought he'll get one against Palace, bring him back. There's no way he saw that, but maybe it works out, just not quite in the first week.
Yeah.
And that's the stupid yellow cards for dissent piling up. Vyman always is going to argue with the referee, and I mean, yeah, you can't question his passion for Villa, but that's coaching. Coaches need to tell him not to do that.
Weren't we nearing the deadline at which you get 5 more cards? Because it's like halfway through the season. Because it's not 5. What was it?
Where it wipes out?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like February. It's like February.
Oh, is it?
Hey, but when Delph comes back, he'll be able to get 10 really quickly, which won't be a problem for him, obviously.
Yeah, no kidding. We used to have that GIF, the Fabian Delph yellow card GIF.
Yes, the Fabian Delph yellow card sweepstakes on Twitter. Who had 37 minutes?
one of the more enjoyable games we always used to play. But yeah, it's because for some reason I thought it was like January or late December that.
No, it wouldn't be logical, of course. It wouldn't be at the exact midway point through the season or even the halfway point in matches played. Of course not.
Yeah.
That'd be too easy.
One of the questions I have about the match yesterday, and since you've actually gotten to see them, Clark and Okore, are they as good together as they've looked on TV?
They're a good balanced partnership because they are different players. You know, a lot of people talk about how you want the sort of the bruiser, the stopper and sweeper combination, and Okore is the aerial titan, and Clark is the guy that sweeps up. And Clark is very comfortable in that role. He's happy to have someone go up for those headers instead of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though they're both left-footed, he's always played all right with Nathan Baker, at least, you know, unless they get absolutely stomped by a big side, because Baker will go up and do that. If Clark is the one that has to jump and go, he does struggle with that one. You have to say, over the last 3 games, he's really stepped up, and fair play to him, because a lot of people were like, this guy is done at this club. So he is performing better. I mean, it just depends. Yeah, precisely. I mean, it just depends on how long it lasts, because he's done this before. I mean, he came on against Arsenal first day of last season, and I thought he was really, really good. Baker was out injured, obviously, and Clark had a little run on the side, but it just went flat. So I'm reluctant to give you an opinion on Clark because he just fluctuates so badly.
Maybe Villa are just a center back factory now.
We've got 5 first-choice center backs, and we can't keep any of them healthy.
Yeah, just play 2 at
we're
wing
making bad products. It's like the Apple. When the new iPhone comes out, your old one's inevitably going to break because you need to use the new one.
I mean, I think the thing with the Clark that's been impressive is that it has sustained over 3 matches. I'm not sure we've ever seen him sustain for 3 matches before.
But in the past, a lot of people were saying, I don't know, a couple years ago, Clark, future captain for Villa, Clark doing so well, comes through the youth team, and so much potential, and then Clark, what the hell are you doing a lot of the times? And earlier this season, I forget who it was, but he just was really 5 yards away when the ball dropped to their striker who slammed it in. I don't know, it could have been City.
Yeah.
But and just really, really schoolboy errors. And then now looking again with Okore, and like Sam was saying, I think a lot of times it is how the 2 players, how their 2 styles kind of work at center back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fascinating to watch though, because 2 weeks ago when we did this podcast, right before Okore and Clark were going to get their debut as a tandem, I said that we're screwed. We're done. And I've said that numerous times.
Thanks. You always jinx us somehow. So I mean,
I've said numerous times throughout this season that I don't even want to see Clark on the pitch. And yet here I admit it, I could not have been more wrong. He has looked fantastic. He stepped up where he needed to. One thing you said in your report last night, Sam, was that Lambert said, and God knows if I take him seriously, that it'll be tough for anyone to bump the 2 of them out. Lambert saying that aside, what do you think? Would you keep Clark and Okore for as long as they're effective?
I think you have to, because right, take for example, this season we have Liverpool and Brendan Rodgers, who plays the underperformers week in, week out, or has recently stopped, but up until about this week, played the underperformers week in, week out. Champions League brings in the likes of Kolo Touré and Lucas Leiva and Emre Can, and they play really well, but they're not rewarded with another start, so the underperformers go back in, so Gerrard and Lovren go back in. And it maybe gets overlooked, but the idea of fostering a competitive spirit in a team is really important, and you have to have people on edge fighting for their jobs. He said it last night. That's the game of football. You work really hard to get in there, and then you stay in there. So if he says that, gives these 2 the chance to shine in these 3 games, and then takes them out again, it's hypocrisy from him, and it's harsh on Clark and Okore, and it's also bad for the harmony and the competitive element within the squad, because you want players to be like, well, that's the standard. I need to then go and play better than that. I have to wait for my chance. Or God forbid, you wait for one of your colleagues to slip up. You never know. With the Clark we know, it could be right around the corner. Could be his last game next.
Or literally just slip and get hurt, because that happens too.
Well, yeah, I mean, Clark's had a lot of opportunities because Baker is so injury prone, and actually Clark's come out with a shiner a couple of these games, hasn't he? So yeah, he's got to keep him in, and I do feel like he will. Even if someone like Senderos, maybe Vlaar nudges Clark.
Mm-hmm.
As club captain.
He's the captain, and he's a World Cup medalist. But then again, is he going to stick around? We're damn close to January.
It is
now.
hard to change a winning team, and like you're saying, if the dressing room's already on edge because you haven't won in over 70 days, and somebody gets in because they're the manager's favorite, why do you respect the manager? And then it's
club captain is got to be the only possible way
Clark
that anyone
has
gets
captained
in.
the club before as well too. So
He has, yeah.
Yeah, one reason or another. But one thing that someone wanted to talk about, it was UT Villa on Twitter, was saying, now that Akora is in, can we afford to sell Vlaar in January? For the right price. For Manchester United come in with $12 million for Vlaar.
Well,
yeah. I think the 12 million rumors are they were just that, but I still think if
they had a worse center back injury crisis than Villa almost.
If they came in for $6 million on Vlaar, which I actually do think is within the realm of reason, $6 million, I would take it in a heartbeat.
That company has a $1 billion shirt deal. Nothing's within the realm of reason for them. They have infinite money. Take them for $12 million.
Yeah.
Literally, they find that in the couch.
Look, with Villa, the heartwarming thing about this, you don't want to lose a very good player, but I think everybody is getting to the point where they're kind of resigned to it. Like, he's not going to stay at the end of this season. So you'd think Villa would cash in. And although we have sold a lot of assets, what often gets overlooked from national media or sort of neutrals, but is never overlooked by Villa fans, is that we drive a seriously hard bargain in negotiations, and we do get a very decent price for our players. Like, Young at 18 million looks hilarious.
Downing for 20, those guys were going to walk. If you say you're not getting sold, their contracts expire and they're free. The guys just have to ride it out or go on strike.
Yeah, but Lerner always picks up the right price. I mean, the Milner deal at 25 million, it still doesn't really look that good, does it? I mean, he was
especially considering Stephen Ireland was part of that.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, I don't worry about the fact that Vlaar will go for the correct price for Aston Villa Football Club. I'm pretty sure he's going to go, but I think it will be for a fair amount, and we've still got four centre backs, and we've got Okoro coming through. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world like we thought it would be maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a real switching attitude there.
I agree, and I think Robert will agree with me that the attitude that we had before is that since we thought Vlaar was really the only competent center back we had, and if he goes, we're in big trouble. So it's better to let him leave for free at the end of the season if he keeps us up, figure it out in the summer. Now, do what you want, And yeah, sorry, Robert, but.
Yeah, I think the corollary question to what UT Villa asked is the really logical: is Delph gone in January, and if so, can we weather that?
Please don't let him go to Spurs. Jesus.
I'll be heartbroken if he goes. I can deal with Vlaar.
At least we know he'll be terrible if he ends up going to Spurs.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't think we can. Okay, I think we can basically survive the Vlaar loss, take the money, and we wouldn't have to replace him. We would have to do something about Delph. We'd have to use the Vlaar and the Delph money to put together between 10 and 15 million pounds and go and buy someone that can play football. Because as much as I don't mind our midfield, if we lose Delph, it's going to be 1 win in 9. That's what it's going.
Yeah,
it just will be a depressing trend for the club losing players of that magnitude and players who are match winners.
I guess my bigger issue if we lose Delph, I think the midfield as it currently stands could actually weather it. I think they would be better than 1 win in 9. My issue would be...
Have you been watching Carlos Sanchez?
Yeah, but
Hey, he had his best game last night.
He's getting better every game. He is,
and I think Villa could weather the loss of Delph. The issue becomes if we lose Delph and we get anyone else injured, then we're screwed. Because I don't know who steps in. Joe Cole? I mean...
Obviously, that's another injury waiting to happen. Do you do Tom Cleverley on the permanent deal? Do you make that? permanent if you have the money available in January, Sam?
I I'd be concerned about the wages more than anything,
Okay.
because I don't know what the price is. It was mentioned at 4. It was mentioned at 8. Wouldn't buy him for 8, obviously, because you can probably get him. You can probably drive that down. I think for like 4 million, I'd take him, because I think the reputation he has around the league is actually quite inaccurate. He was billed as this guy who just passes sideways and stuff. I feel like he runs a lot harder than anyone ever gives him credit for, and the guy leaves his boots on the pitch every single week. He is exhausted at the end of each game.
He's
And I can,
sprinting at Zaha at the touchline and ended up flying into the ad board.
yeah, that was right in front of me, and I thought he'd knocked himself out.
Like Gabby,
So did I.
Gabby at Liverpool a couple of years ago, he hurt his back on that and had to leave the match.
Yeah, exactly. I'd get him, but I'd just be slightly concerned about the wages, because he's not going to be on pittance at United, and I don't want to get trapped under another contract, because we know how that's held us back over the last few years. We still have them on our books. We still have Given. We still have Bent. I can't.
That's 4 players right there, maybe 4 players' wages, Given and Bent, you know.
Yeah, easy. It's like 120 grand a week, just down the drain.
I don't know why I've never thought of this, but everyone says United want Vlar. We want Cleverly on sort of a permanent. Why not having Cleverly as some sort of a make weight in Vlar to United?
Or you just switch their pay packets. That's what you'd have to do.
Yeah.
You know what? I would for the switch here. I would probably just swap them. I would do that, because we're going to lose Vlar anyway. Screw it. Why not?
Yeah. It's not the perfect deal. I think we could probably get more money than just a straight up swap of Cleverly for Vlar, but I think in the long term it would be better for Villa.
Yeah, I think if we could swap him and get Cleverly on like 35, 40 grand a week, I'd probably do that, because he's English, so you're going to have to add 10 regardless. So that's 10 a week. So yeah, I think I'd do that. I mean, it's not going to be a really popular opinion among a lot of Villa fans, I don't think, but I would do that.
And I don't know. You saw he was really solid at Wigan a couple years ago when they were staying up. And you look at Villa, they're kind of in that position on the table as they're just trying to stay up. And Cleverly was one of the better players in that side. Like he came in, he didn't have to be someone who could go out and beat Manchester City by himself. That's stupid to expect that.
I think what you were saying, Sam, that there's this misconception around the league about him is sort of what Jack and I talked about when he first came on, is that there's a misconception because United never really played him where he fits naturally.
Maybe.
I
mean, Wigan, he was on the wing, wasn't he? This Wigan campaign you referenced, he was on the wing. He was actually like that. The closest he's got to that is probably QPR away, where he played left mid.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still in a 4-4-2, so it wasn't really on the wing. It was like a flat midfielder, and maybe that's his best position. I don't know.
He had the freedom to roam at Wigan as well. A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, he was. I mean, that whole Wigan side, there was nothing disciplined about it. So in a way, we're the polar opposite to it. But in a way, we could be giving him his chance to shine. He's certainly basically, I'll put it this way: at every club he's been at, he seems to show a different quality. So if you can push it all together, he could be really good.
Yeah, I've been smitten with Cleverly this year. As I've said numerous times on here, he's been sort of my dark horse for my favorite player this year, just because he's been showing that work rate. He's not made any stupid mistakes that I can remember. I mean, there's a few matches where I look at him and I go, okay, you didn't do much, but you also didn't actively hurt us.
Exactly. You can have 6 players in the side like that, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Such a shame that we're in that position, aren't we? Okay, you didn't screw us over. I don't mind you.
I mean, but if you look, it is a shame we're in that position, but if you look at it, can we say that about Gabby Agbonlahor lately?
No.
Or and the guy we gave a new 4-year contract to? Which still looks so befuddling to me.
Yeah, me too. I can only assume he's taken a wage reduction or something, or if he hasn't, I despair, because there's only so far you can get as a fan of the club, and I think the sell-by date was just about coming up. He could snap out of his form, but last night was another game at which, when the ball is delivered to him in the final third, he will more often than not lose it and ruin the flow of the attack. And a lot of the attacks that Palace then produced through Balassi or Zaha on the wings, on the counter, were largely down to the fact that Gabby, 5 seconds previously, had just lost the ball. That's how I saw it.
I would entirely agree, and it's a trend that's.
He had a chance to win it against Burnley too that he blew, and then he had given away the penalty. The previous.
Yeah, he's been rough to watch. When you were talking about Kieran Clark and his sort of on again off again thing, Gabby is the player that comes to mind for me for that, because he will have 3-match stretches where he is unbeatable, and then he'll go 12 without being useful in the slightest.
Yeah.
And he's been doing that since I've been watching this club, which obviously isn't as long as you who grew up watching them, but I've been around since I came on just as Martin O'Neill was leaving, so I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I didn't even...
That's like the problem with Villa, is that there's no one who can kick him out of the team almost, maybe even.
Why not Callum Robinson?
Well, he was captain last night, wasn't he? I mean,
he has been.
That in itself is just. I mean,
it's just so Villa. It's just so Villa.
Who would you have be the captain in the absence of Lar?
Okora.
I wouldn't give it to Okora. I couldn't get away with that. I mean, just because he's only played 3 games in 14 months, it's just a little too much. It's a good question. To be fair, now you say that, it's difficult to find a leader out there. Definitely wouldn't give it to Carlos Sanchez.
No.
He
Guzan?
probably wouldn't even. Huh?
Guzan?
I'm not a fan of keepers being captains, but in this case, it's probably going to have to be him.
Yeah, keepers and strikers, at least the keeper's probably not getting subbed off, although Guzan took a beating.
Oh, that was... You know what? I don't know if this came across on television for you, but the Selhurst Park crowd last night were convinced that Michael Oliver had it in for them. Did you get the boos?
Yes.
And the...
Oh, yes.
And obviously I had the benefit of me being there, it happening 20 feet from me, and then I had an instant replay television, and I looked at each one and looked back and went, no, he's got it right again, no, he's got it right again, and I'm sure that's what you guys are doing as well. Couple of fairly firm challenges.
Destroyed.
Sorry?
Hutton got destroyed on one tackle, I think, and Pulis just, I don't know, he's taught him how to play rugby quite well.
It was just crazy because they made the referee the enemy, and apparently that's what they do quite a lot. And we talk about these like small stadiums, these smaller clubs making their own stadiums very hostile, very difficult to play in, somewhere like Loftus Road. That's actually a serious part of it. It's making the ref feel like you're being victimised by him and trying to like bend his will and make him bow to your pressure. They did very well last night, but the ref, I have to commend him, because he, the Guzan one, that was the bit at which cheat started ringing around the stadium while Guzan was down with an injury, and you're like, we all watched it. He got smashed to pieces on the follow through. It was crazy. I was really bemused by that whole thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I didn't know they were yelling cheat. I had heard. God, what was one of the other big chants they had? I heard something that they were chanting at the ref, and I usually can't hear the actual chants on TV.
Yeah, they were chanting, "You don't know what you're doing."
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right, Guzan got obliterated, although that play on which he got obliterated was maybe my highlight of the game for him. Because that could have been a goal, and he just came sprinting off his line.
Yeah, he's good at that. Although I do feel like he was treating the ball a bit like a bar of soap last night. He could have hung on to it a little bit better in the box. He gave me a few heart-fluttering moments, but he does redeem himself with the odd Manuel Neuer sweeper keeper superstar run.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, I've just never seen like that one from him, an 18-yard sprint and the perfect clearance, and just all in the face of danger, and said screw it and just got taken out anyway.
He got rotated in the air. That's how hard he got hit, and the crowd were like, "What a cheat!"
He went full Neuer.
Yeah, it's true. It was
Always go full Neuer.
He's looked pretty good lately, and he's been part of that defensive structure of the team, that backbone that they've had. With maybe the Arsenal match accepted. So that's the thing that we really wanted to get to today. Is this a defensive club? What is this club?
Well, I think it's pending because of the injuries, and we don't know. I mean, over the first 13 games, it's difficult to see it going any other way than somehow we have found some solidity. We had a rough patch, but you can definitely forgive the fixtures. In isolation, every single one of those fixtures is not a horrendous result. It's just the fact that they were one after the other. I think Lambert's job has been made a lot more difficult by the fact that he really did get screwed by the fixture computer, and it sucks to lose.
Came at a horrible time after all those brutal ones, you know.
Yeah, at the moment it is a defensive team, and that might change. But what we do have this season that we haven't had in the previous seasons is, one, a left back who is better at defending than he is attacking. Two, a right back who is better at defending than he is attacking. And then three, five, fairly decent, and two, very good centre backs. So it's difficult to move away from that. Sorry?
Funny how that translates to having a pretty relatively tight backline and not leaking 8 goals to a super side like Chelsea when, you know, now it's only 2 or something, you know.
It's crazy. I think Paul Lambert's cracked the code that everybody's been searching for the last 200 years. It's not. Yeah, it's not. No, it's not.
Sissoko's been great, and you were saying yesterday Hutton's your player of the year for Villa.
Hutton's my player of the year. Well, yeah, but I think it's by default, really, because Delph's been injured, Benteke's been injured,
Hutton was in who knows where. He was in the wilderness, and now he's really a solid right back this season for Villa.
Yeah, I mean, basically Lambert's been trying to sell him.
He get a game in the second in Liga Adelante for Mallorca or what, and now he's starting at Villa.
Yeah, it's weird, and I'm glad that new contract hasn't made him sit on his heels. I know it's only been signed a month ago, but the last month he's been very good again. He's been showing the same form as he was pre-contract when he was going to expire in the summer, and Lambert was just trying to sell him and freeze him out. When it became clear that he wasn't getting any more money this summer, he was like, fine, well, I'm going to bring him back in and play him. And I think we all thought that he'd been like exiled as a bit of a leg breaker, because I do remember a challenge on Shane Long, I don't know if you remember that, which was quite bad from Hutton. And that seems to be the stigma surrounding him, and actually he's done a really good job of reinventing himself really late on in his career, and I'm pretty happy to have him at right back, because the last 2 games, or sorry, two of the last 3 games, he's defeated Sadio Mane and Ryan Bertrand, and then he's bottled up Balassi as well as anybody has this season.
Yeah, he has looked incredible. He's just entirely different. He is, God, I don't know. He's sort of what we hoped for out of Matthew Lowton.
We just hope for someone who can defend at that spot. And I mean, occasionally, you've seen Hutton drift into central attacking position sometimes going forward, and I always go, why? Just go back to right back, and when they counter, please be there. But
yeah,
I don't know. He's been positive,
but he usually is there, right? I mean, he usually does get back. He's been disciplined this season. I think that's what happens when you play for Scotland in the international scene for 10 years. You just get used to defending, and you just
know your place.
You just work it out.
It's so. I think I would tend to agree that they're sort of this defensively minded team. They're currently tied 9th in the league on goals allowed. And you can actually, revisionist history is not a great thing, but that Arsenal match where they allowed 3 goals, remember everyone was literally leaking out their rear end, from what we heard. Tottenham, they allowed a goal after Benteke gets sent off.
We were always gonna leak 2 after that.
Yeah, was it 2 that we allowed after Benteke got sent off?
Yeah.
Okay, so down 10 men, you allowed at least 1 or 2. It's pretty easy to write off 3 or 4 goals this season. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean,
especially because they've only conceded 18 all season.
Yeah, and
in the top half of the league.
That's a pretty incredible stat right there. So, yeah, I would buy this as a defensively minded team.
But we have to see how it develops, because now Benteke is back, we see how it works. I mean, with target men, when they get plugged back into the system, it can take a little while for them to find their feet. We saw that with his first 2 appearances before the sending off, that they weren't very good. I mean, he found it against Spurs in the 3rd one, but then he got sent off. And then maybe that actually...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, maybe that actually helped, that he was able to then go and find some match fitness. He played for Belgium in that time as well. He got the worst bits out of the way when he wasn't playing in our shirt. He was playing in their shirt. Came back, looked okay last night. Wasn't really his best, but again, so important to us. And when the midfield feel like they can start running forward and playing off him again, when they feel comfortable with that, because they don't feel comfortable with that with any of the other strikers, maybe the offensive fortunes of this team actually start to improve. But it's a gradual basis. And we've got one first-team player, Tom Cleverley, who's never played with him. So there's another sort of link that needs to be rekindled or built from scratch even, really.
Yeah. I think a lot of it with Benteke is sometimes the chances are so random when you only have 32% of the ball, it's hard to get consistent flow up to that striker, and I don't know, some games the chances fall better than others.
But last night reminded me of why we love him so much, because he will create his own chances.
Out of nothing, exactly. And yeah, sometimes when he's feeling confident, he does that. And I don't know, sometimes the referee is going to be not in favor of having a big guy who fairly muscles his way into challenges. And last thing we want to get to is just the Leicester City match coming up on Sunday. That's going to be at 11 Eastern time, 4 local, of course, but kind of weird Sunday match. But yeah, after the Tuesday, going to be back at Villa Park against Leicester City with
new dugouts.
New dugouts. Oh, okay.
Really?
The fans get to sit in the dugout. Is that the new promotion?
Yeah, they're
going to actually more than 25,000 people going to show up.
I just saw that the other day. I think it was Kendrick who wrote about it. First new dugouts at the club since 2001.
Well, so unbeaten in December, unbeaten with the new dugouts so far.
Unbeaten with the new dugouts, yeah, absolutely.
Long may it continue. I'm looking forward to the game. Obviously, it's not really a rivalry, but Leicester is in the Midlands, so it will mean something to about 25% of that stadium that's in there. They'll have a family member that lives in Leicester, so it should be a decent game. And of course, Leicester look absolutely shocking. So,
they're
I don't want to do that. I don't want to jinx it, but they look so bad.
Their last win was on the 21st of September. City, and they beat City 5-3.
So it's United.
What was that?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, United. Yeah, I mean, since there, it's just gone straight down. I watched them against QPR last weekend. They weren't horrendous, but they can't really defend. So, it makes it interesting.
Good news.
But at least they do try to attack, which you don't always see from promoted sides.
Yeah. Fair enough, but then as soon as Ulloa stopped finding something like lucking his way to goals.
It's stupid too, but
well, yeah.
I didn't think they were going to be this bad. I assumed QPR and Burnley would be the promoted clubs that were going to be atrocious. I thought Leicester had a chance at looking decent.
In fairness.
Yeah.
I thought Burnley were going to be horrendous. I thought Leicester would be okay, and I thought QPR would buy their way to 17th place. But then it's just kind of the shine's gone off from Leicester, and that always happens with the promoted side. It's just how you deal with it, and they just haven't found their feet yet. And a big part of that is the fact that they didn't score for 5 games in a row, but unlike us, where we didn't score for so long, they don't have a world-class striker to welcome back from injury. They've exhausted all their options already, and they're out of options, so they don't know what to do. And that kind of like helplessness kind of settles into the team, and they think, crap, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we could have offered him Darren Bent. We had a former world-class striker.
Well, they got Marco Brighton. That's not good enough?
He's been perpetually injured, hasn't he? Look, I was as sore as anybody when he left us, or when we failed to offer him a deal. But his injury record over the last year at Villa and the last 4 months at Leicester, 6 months during pre-season, it vindicates the fact that we didn't give him a deal, and we were right possibly not to do so. Begs the question, why did you give on to Gary Gardner? But that's another question entirely.
Gary Gardner is someone I always forget exists.
Because Lambert doesn't want to play wingers, and maybe we'll need venture mids in the future. Yeah, but yeah.
Well, he's on loan at Brighton, isn't he?
Yeah,
Villa's reserve squad.
And Darren Bent. We have a reserve club at Brighton now.
Yes, the dumping ground.
Yeah, no kidding. Is there like some relationship between Paul Lambert and Brighton?
I don't think so. I think it's just Brighton is one of those clubs that have tried to, how Swansea tried to continue a tradition of playing good football, and appointing coaches with the same philosophy and ethos as the last one to create a foundation, like Rodgers, Paulo Sousa, Roberto Martinez, Laudrup Monk. It's the same situation at Brighton. Ever since Poyet came in or went in and changed the way they played for the better with a passing system, they've tried to stick to that same template. So what Lambert probably sees, and what any Premier League manager when loaning a player, a younger player or a fringe player that needs to develop to a lower league side, it's not going to be to someone that just kicks and rushes it. I mean, Bradford don't get that many loans, but Brighton play good football. So Lambert would have seen Gary Gardner, how he thinks he likes to play, and think, yeah, okay, you could definitely fit in there. That would be beneficial to you, because a loan can be all wrong with the wrong team, of course.
But at least he's playing football.
Yes, that's nice.
Yeah. This is actually the single happiest question I'm glad that I asked is about this, because I literally had no idea why everyone was going to Brighton, because I've never really seen them play. So this is revelatory for me.
I remember them almost coming up, and then Poyet just being forced out.
Yeah, that was a bit of a mess. We're still not really sure what happened there.
On live TV, you know?
Fired on. Well, he didn't get fired on live TV, but Gary Lineker
learned about it. Yeah.
Gary Lineker read the statement out while they were on Match of the Day doing the Confederations Cup, and Poyet hadn't heard the statement yet, so you just had to sit there and watch his face go, oh, never mind, okay, and then try and recover and be like, well, and then what do you say? What do you say?
Yeah, I didn't realize that's how that had happened, and my God.
Poor guy. Poor guy. We still love him though. We're okay with him.
Nobody deserves that. Oh, almost nobody deserves that.
Alex McLeish deserves that.
Alex McLeish deserves. That's exactly who I had in mind.
Okay, well, I mean, let's get back to Leicester. I guess it's so weird that Esteban Cambiasso is playing for Leicester City.
It is weird. It is weird.
I'm looking forward to seeing him, though, I guess, but I mean...
Well, unfortunately in that last year at Inter, he did drop off pretty heavily from where he was, and which is why he was released, and then he pledged never to play for another Italian club out of respect for Inter, and that left him with, well, I can only presume a lot fewer options than he actually expected to have on the table. So
I think he could have gone to a lot of places in Italy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there would have been at least 10 Italian clubs that would have snapped him up immediately. They trade players, they just borrow players off each other like no tomorrow. It's amazing the amount of players that have played for Inter, AC, Roma, Juve, Fiorentina, finish the career at Lazio, then have one fling over at Cesena or whatever. It's amazing how they just go, yeah, no. So it was nice to see him show some loyalty, but I don't think he got the offers he wanted.
Yeah, I mean, probably not. But and Leicester maybe could have offered him more cash than a lot of places in Italy can right now.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say of any player at Leicester that they didn't get the offer they wanted.
I think didn't Mark Albrighton end up getting more money, but I guess you could say he didn't get the Villa offer yet. So I mean,
yeah, exactly.
You're 100% right.
Is there anyone that says, when I grew up, I want to play for Leicester?
People from Leicester?
All right, yeah. What was that, Sam? You seem to have muted yourself.
You are going to upset Gary Lineker if you continue to speak like this about Leicester.
All right, I'll hush up.
Hopefully, if he hears of our podcast, they'll be happy for me. So.
Yeah, I would be willing to take that risk.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess really try to wrap this up. Yeah, prediction time.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say Villa 2, Leicester 1.
Oh.
I'm predicting a win, which is crazy.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I've been through this before. Remember last season when we would win a game and we beat Norwich, didn't we, at home 4-1, and we were like, brilliant, this is it, this is the start of a roll, and then Stoke came around. The first 4 minutes we were absolutely brilliant, and then the other 86 I can't remember, but apparently we lost. I don't want to go through this again, but I feel like we're gonna. I don't know. Maybe it's been drilled into me, the pessimism. But I'll go for a 1-1 draw. We don't play well at home.
No, we don't, and that's really odd. Maybe it's because the chairs in the dugouts were uncomfortable.
Or maybe
Quite
because
possibly.
no one shows up and the people who do show up groan.
It's not a nice atmosphere at that place. I'll tell you that. I haven't been there this season yet because I've been to the away games, but I took my girlfriend for her first game, which was Villa 6, Sunderland 1. Do you remember that? Of course you do.
Yes.
That was her first game. So we were stood in the Holt end at the top, singing our lungs out. It was absolutely incredible, and the atmosphere was just amazing. We had a party in the car park afterwards, and we went the next season. We went to Villa Sunderland again, which was 0-0 at home. Poisonous atmosphere, absolutely poisonous. Westwood misplaces a pass. 30,000 people just go like that. It's difficult, and you look at some of the bigger teams, perceived bigger teams, Newcastle, West Ham. Apart from the recent turnarounds, West Ham, the players don't like playing at Upton Park. They hate it. They're scared of their own fans. Newcastle were quite similar as well. There were a couple of other clubs. Adebayor said, about Spurs fans, like, we don't like playing in front of you because you make it very difficult for us.
Well, stop being bad, Adebayor.
Well, I mean, with him,
No,
yeah,
in fairness,
stop it.
yeah. No, that's what I think at Newcastle is when that many people, it seems like they're against you when they should be for you.
There's a very famous little anecdote that gets passed along like Premier League managers and stuff. And when you go to White Hart Lane, unless you're Roy Keane, who just goes in and goes, guys, it's Tottenham, come on. What they say is, if you can ride out that first 20 minutes, the White Hart Lane crowd they just start to tear their own team to pieces. And it's true because I've been there and I've seen it. You survive the first 20 and then you let the crowd do the work for you. And it's like playing in an away stadium. It's odd. It's odd how it works, but I guess it all comes down to, we hear Lambert go about expectancy of the club. This all ties in, and that's kind of what he means.
Yeah, it's one of those really weird issues to me, though, because, yeah, it would help the club if the crowd were behind them, but the club have given the crowd very little reason to be behind them.
It's just a vicious cycle.
You got to give them something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like
goal.
play Grealish. If you play Grealish, they'll cheer for him the whole time.
Yeah. I agree. That's a good point. And
that's the main reason to play Grealish, I think.
Yeah, well, we're all looking for an excuse, aren't we?
I mean, and against Leicester, whatever, give them a run out. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's so many ways you can go with this. I think Villa should win, but like you're saying, maybe Villa show that they're going to turn the corner and just go 10 steps in the opposite direction. But I'll go 2-1.
Oh.
Or 2-0. 2-0. Our defense is amazing, right?
Okay,
right,
2-0 in favor of Villa. Okay.
Akora bullet header and Grealish rounds the keeper in the 92nd.
Cora goes up for a challenge in our box and manages to hit it in. He's just that much of a titan.
Perfect. I'll get on board with that. That's the most realistic predictions anyone's made.
Yeah, 90-yard header from Yoris Akora. I love it.
Seems legit. All right, well, Sam, thanks for joining us. We've had a blast. I hope you had as much fun as I know I had for this podcast.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you can follow him on Twitter. It's at Ty, I guess, STIGHE football on Twitter. So
that's me.
Want to thank him for joining us.
Sorry.
What happened, Jack?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
What did you say?
Oh no, sorry.
No, my thing froze.
My thing froze. Sorry. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Play Grealish.
All right. Well, simple enough.
I can't help that at all. That's perfect. That is the best final thought we've ever had here.
Usually I say any final thoughts, and me and Robert go, nope.
Yeah.
Just say that every week until he starts.
I was going to say, yeah, that is our new motto. Any final thoughts? Play Grealish. That's going to be our thing now.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Remember, you can subscribe on iTunes, BTR, and Stitcher Radio, and remember to come back to 7500tohold.com. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and until next week, this has been the Holtcast for Robert Lintott, and this week, Sam Ty. I've been Jack Grimsey.